Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, and today I'm going to bring you along with me as I prep all of this, including some of my tips and tricks for helping your produce last longer and how to wake up some wilty lettuce if you have some wilty lettuce. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Vegan Prepper, Vegan Prepper. First up, we're starting with all of the berries that I have. I've got like raspberries, some strawberries, some blueberries, and I will be showing you how I make those last a week or more in my fridge. I'm starting with those also because they are the easiest part of this entire prep, and also because I feel like they need the longest to dry. Like I want them to be as dry as possible before they go into the fridge, and that's part of what makes them last longer. But let's go ahead and look at the basic steps I take to make sure that they last a long time in the fridge. So I have my salad spinner right here. I filled it up with a bit of water from my sink, and I'm just going to put in like a touch of apple cider vinegar, like no more than a tablespoon or two. And so the vinegar is there to kill any like mold spores or anything else that might be hanging out on our fruit, which would become moldy once it goes into the fridge. And so basically I just sort of gently dump the fruit in, kind of one type at a time. And as I'm doing it, I'm looking at it for any that don't look super savory. Although I kind of do that also at the store. I'm always kind of looking at my fruit, making sure that I'm not bringing home fruit that's super moldy. And there we go. So basically I let this sit in here a little bit, just a few seconds, not very long at all, because the vinegar actually, if you put too much or if you leave it for too long, especially with these more tender berries, the vinegar begins to actually eat at kind of the outer lining of the berry, and it ends up kind of doing the opposite of what you want to do, which is make it last longer. So it's just like a little quick thing like this, and you would think, how could that possibly make a difference? But it really does. And so I have also seen people when they're washing their berries using their salad spinner, that they'll actually, you know, dump out their water and use their salad spinner and spin their berries to make them dry. I do not do that because I don't, especially again with the fragile berries, like raspberries are so fragile, or like blackberries, and even strawberries to a certain degree. I feel like you're potentially bruising the fruit, especially the fruit that is, like I said, more fragile. And so I like to just do it this way. But also what ends up happening if I do this when people are home, it's a little bit of a problem because I'll be doing this process and I'll put them out, especially these raspberries. Man, these raspberries are like, I don't even know, people go after raspberries in my house and they will just be half gone before I even put them away. So it's a good problem to have because I appreciate that people are eating the fruit, but I also kind of want to put it in the fridge for like tomorrow. But anyway, we'll see. Always the raspberries are the first to get eaten. So we don't really deal with a lot of raspberries like going bad in my house anyway, just because they get eaten so quickly, especially once they've been pre-washed and prepared. But yeah, I'm gonna just do the same exact procedure for the blueberries and the strawberries, just leave them sitting just a little bit. I think actually I'm gonna move blueberries to another towel. So these are all hand knit towels that I have I've made these myself. I love the thick garter stitch towels. And then these are a little thinner. This is a basket weave stitch, but these are the towels that I prefer for this project because they are so soft. They're cushy, but also they absorb so much water. Okay, same thing. Just gonna sort of let it drain a bit. Go over here. If I were doing tons of batches of fruit, like a ton of fruit, I would be feeling like I need to change the water. But for just, you know, just these few bits, like a few blueberries, a few strawberries, a few raspberries, I don't feel like I need to change the water. So Now, same thing with the strawberries. And yeah, all of that looks really good. Okay, so here we go. Let these sit for just a second. What I like about this is that instead of just rinsing them off in the sink, you're also getting these tops really nice and clean. And you guys know if you've watched the channel at all, but if you haven't watched at all, now you will know, I like to take the organic strawberry tops and I cut them off and then I dehydrate them and turn them into tea. And so you can have kind of a strawberry flavored tea. The leaves, this is it's a relative of the raspberry. And so those of you who are familiar with herbal medicines or herbal remedies will probably recognize red raspberry leaf as an herb that is used especially in women's teas, like to help with women. Red raspberry seems to have a really beautiful nourishing effect, like red raspberry leaf seems to have a very nourishing effect on the uterus specifically. So it's a really wonderful tonic for women. And strawberry leaves are actually in a similar family. They don't have the same exact action, but it's also a very helpful thing. And so you can have a beautiful strawberry flavored tea along with those leaves, and then you're actually also having like a little bit of medicine with the tea that tastes amazingly well. But anyway, all the berries are done, like I said, super easy. So I'm going to move on to the greens. This is a quick addition. Here is what the strawberry tops look like once they've been dehydrated. And then I just keep them in various jars around my house, and they do really make amazingly delicious, wonderful strawberry flavored tea. I really love mixing these with some peppermint, rose, whatever. It's just a fantastic way of using up those strawberry tops and making sure that they don't go to waste. All right, so I am here now with my greens. I forgot, I need my knife too. And so basically I have one bunch of dinosaur kale. There's a local store, I actually really love these bags. I'm beginning to prefer these bags much more over my reusable produce bags. There's a local store that uses, it's all organic produce, and they have compostable bags. And so I've been getting their compostable bags and reusing them in the store. And so I'm gonna set that aside. But basically I did also have a batch of curly kale, but we already went through it. My intention was to prepare everything at the same time and have a mix of curly and dinosaur kale for smoothies, but that's not what ended up happening. And so basically what I'm gonna do here is just sort of look, because these are basically mostly intended for smoothies. I'm not going to go through the process of stripping every single leaf. In case you're not aware of what stripping is when it comes to kale. Oh wow, I'm seeing some bugs. There's some aphid activity on here. But if you're not familiar with what that is, basically I like to sort of peel away part of the leaf, and then you take in your hand like this, just go like that, and then you're left with the stem, which is not necessarily the most pleasant thing to eat. However, if it's going in smoothies, then it's not that big of a deal. So basically what I'm gonna do, because I'm not planning on having these necessarily be so much for our eating, I'm going to, or direct eating, obviously they're going in smoothies. I'm gonna sort of look at these. Some of these leaves are a little yellow. I did not get to them in time. We're kind of getting to that time of year when the green quality is going downhill. I used to buy a bunch of dinosaur kale kind of more in the winter months, and they'd be about this big, like seriously huge. And now they're very small. But basically, I'm just gonna take this and I'm just gonna cut these little pieces. This just makes it a little easier to clean. So as we saw, there's some of that bug activity, which is not the most attractive. But hey, it's a good sign that it's natural. And so what I'm gonna do is almost a repeat of what I did with the berries, but I don't typically put any vinegar in. I'm gonna fill this with water, let this sit for, at least a few minutes to make sure that aphids detach themselves and all of that. Then I will pull it out and do the rinse and dry it off with the salad spinner. I'll show you that when I come back, but I'm gonna go ahead and go do that stuff off camera. Okay, so the kale is soaking in my sink now. While that's soaking, I'm gonna go ahead and get my cabbage ready. I really love to have cabbages, whether it's green or red. Red for the extra antioxidants, and green just in general is also, like, it has a milder taste, and it's also incredibly nutritionally dense. I've seen a lot of things that say that red cabbage is better than green cabbage, but actually there's a couple of minerals, a couple of vitamins that green has more of than red. And red definitely does have more antioxidants, you can tell by the color. But that doesn't necessarily mean that one is better than the other, so that you should eat only ever red cabbage and never get green cabbage again, because this just happens to have more of one thing than this one has, if that makes sense. I really love cabbage because it keeps for forever in your fridge. Both of these are at least 3 weeks old. And so basically you can buy cabbage, especially if you see a cabbage sale, good cabbage sale, or if you're just needing something where you know you're not going to be getting to the store very often and you need something that's going to keep in your fridge for a long time. Heads of cabbage can last a month or more in your fridge. I also really love Napa cabbage. Napa cabbage is the same way. It can last like a month in your fridge. But what I really love about Napa cabbage is that it pulls double duty very well. Now you can technically eat any form of cabbage raw or cooked, but Napa cabbage, the leaves are a little bit more tender, and you can use those very easily as salad leaves, and in fact they are delicious. And in the I don't know what the correct term is, it's not the spine, but like the fleshy middle part of the Napa cabbage is possibly my favorite vegetable. It's like it just tastes refreshing. It's like water and just the burst of, I don't know, just refreshment anytime you have that. And so chopping all that up and putting it into a salad is actually quite delicious. So anyway, like I said, while the kale is soaking, I'm going to go ahead and chop these up and just throw them into a baggie. So this is what I'm going to be using for the next week or so as my something to grab to throw in to add vegetables to whatever it is I happen to be cooking, whatever it may be. I also really do enjoy using just cabbage as the base of a stir fry. It just wilts down super well, and you got a ton of veggies in, and it's really delicious. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this up too. Here is what I ended up with the cabbage. And so that will go in the fridge and it'll be good for anywhere from 7 to 10 days once it's cut. And then all those bags also get washed and reused for anybody who's concerned about that. But basically, now that the kale has been through its rinse, I actually did 2 rinses because the bug activity was high on this batch. It just goes for a spin. Now it's going to get dry, and now I can package this up in its own baggie, and that's how I store it. I wish I had like some of those highfalutin fancy containers that you see people, like those big containers that people use to put their greens in the fridge or whatever, but it's not what I have. I don't have any of that stuff, so I am just using what I do have, which is these. And oh, I also like to, this is the part that I forgot. I don't so much need to for the cabbage, but for the greens, I like to toss in a little paper towel, and this helps to kind of keep the moisture down a bit. Also helps to keep everything from getting soggy. One thing that I have learned is that greens actually like space. So for a lot of stuff, the more oxygen you remove, the better it will keep. But when it comes to fresh greens, especially like lettuce, if you take all the oxygen away and you leave them close up next to each other, they can tend to get slimy. So a good way to prevent that is just to make sure that there's a little bit of airspace in your bag, but then also to add a little paper towel or, you know, a cloth if you don't want to put a paper towel in. But anyway, this is where I am now. I've got to go pick up my son. He's actually learning to drive, so he's going to drive us home, but we do like 15 minutes of driving every time when I pick him up. So I've gotten to this point and I'll come back when we're back. I'm getting my fruit packaged up now, and so the blueberries will almost fit in a pint jar. That size, it was a dry pint. It's a little more than, I guess, the wet pint, which is what the ball jar is. There's just this much left over, so we'll just take care of that. You know, it's left on the counter, it will get eaten. The raspberries, those two, like I think it's 6-ounce containers of raspberries, fit comfortably in the quart-sized jar. It's about 3 cups of raspberries. And then the 1 pound of strawberries is actually a little over a quart. So I just use a larger container. This container, I can't remember how big it is. This is just an old, like a really old container. And it will fit 2 pounds of strawberries, but I only have 1 pound this time around. And so I'll show you what my grandma taught me about doing this. And I just basically stick the paper towel in on top, and then you store it in the fridge upside down. And then this will catch moisture or whatever. And then as this begins to look all red or all, you know, super wet, you begin to change that out. And as you change it out, it just helps keep everything super fresh in the jars. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing with the blueberry. So for these kind of smaller pieces, I'm only using half of a sheet of the paper towel. For this, I will use the full sheet and just do my paper towel like that. And now, granted, I know the paper towel thing is not the best. Like, I wish, I don't know. I have done cloths before, but they don't seem to work as well as the paper towels. And so I'm thinking about just beginning to grab some paper towels from If You Care. It's a brand that makes toilet paper. Not affiliated with them at all, but I do buy my toilet paper from If You Care. Or no, not If You Care, sorry. Who Gives a Crap is the brand of toilet paper I buy. I will link it below. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. It's not an affiliate link, but they also sell paper towels, and I might start adding them to my orders for things like this. It's kind of that juggling back and forth a little bit, right? So I have a little bit of waste, I guess, from the paper towel, but much less waste because I'm not throwing food away, especially things like these berries, which tend to go bad pretty quickly if you don't kind of treat them the way that I am treating them. So anyway, these are ready to go into the fridge, and I will get some lettuce out next. I have 2 heads of romaine lettuce up, and unfortunately, this one has gotten a bit wilty. This piece I feel is kind of beyond saving, but the rest of it should perk right up, and I will show you my trick for perking up lettuce that might have gone a bit wilty in case you didn't get to it fast enough like you were supposed to, because I don't know, you were busy with 10 billion other things that you have going on. So anyway, basically what I'm gonna do is take these heads of romaine lettuce, I'm gonna get them in here, probably only one at a time. Gosh, I hope I can fit 2, it would make it a lot easier. So I just sort of cut down the way until I get to the core. I'm gonna sort of break this up as I toss it in here. And I'll be able to get the other one in there, because this time of year, again, is not the best for greens, at least not in my area. I live in central Arizona. This is when everything starts wilting very badly. Winter is so much better for us. I wonder if it's the opposite for you guys, because I think it's possible like our greens are glorious in wintertime, because I'm pretty sure a ton of the nation's greens, at least in wintertime, are grown locally down in Yuma, Arizona, very close to us. So it's entirely possible that in winter we're getting like the freshest of the greens, and it's possible that right now we're getting greens from wherever greens are growing right now, and so they're arriving to us and they don't last as long at this time of year. So that's part of the seasonality, I guess, of produce, and that's just sort of what I deal with. So basically what I'm going to do is get some water in here, and then I'll show you my trick. Okay, the trick is to let it soak in very cold water for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. And so I get ice actually, and I put it in, and then the ice in the water obviously makes it super cold, and that super cold water kind of wakes the lettuce right back up. It kind of soaks it up a bit, and it just seems to crisp everything back up very nicely, as long as the lettuce is only kind of slightly wilted. So like that piece I saw, you know, it was kind of beyond saving, and so I did get rid of that one. But if you have lettuce that is still mostly essentially good, this trick will wake them right up. If you live in a nice cool area, like say you're getting well water or whatever, it comes out of your faucet super cold, super nice, you don't probably need the ice. But if you live in my area and you're getting to the time of year where, or other areas too, I know other places do it. Again, I realize that Central Arizona does not have the monopoly on hot summers, okay? I get it. I know there's other places too where your cold tap water will start coming out hot. And so this is just a great thing to have on hand or in your arsenal. A little bit of ice into your soaking water will just wake stuff right up and give you something that is delicious to eat. Moving on now to cucumbers and bell peppers, and something I want to show you that I'm just like, please just punch about, because I don't know if I specifically mentioned that I did not get to these as quickly as I wanted to. So my son, cucumber is his favorite vegetable. He loves to take it in his lunches as a snack. He actually took it upon himself to cut a couple of the cucumbers that we had and put them in this dish so that he could have something to grab for his lunch. And I was just like, anyway, so I was so happy about it. But I am gonna go ahead and cut this one up and throw it in here. This is only, I think he only did this about 2 days ago, and these nice thick slices should last 5 to 7 days as long as the slices are thick. And he knew that too, so that was so fun. But anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and slice through my cucumber. If you use thinner slices, you really should be putting a little bit of vinegar on them. If you store them with just a little vinegar like on them, so that they're almost like little pickled cucumbers, but not pickles, just cucumbers kind of stored in vinegar, then even the thin slices will go up to like 7 to 10 days. But otherwise, if you want the maximum usage from your sliced cucumbers, you need to keep the slices thicker. And we go through those. And then sometimes I might cut them a little smaller when it's snack time, but mostly I just grab them and eat them like that. So that's very easy. And now we have a couple of bell peppers. This one is actually the last one from the batch I bought last week. This is the first one from the batch I bought this week. I have 2 others. So that is another thing that I have begun to do in my prepping journey as far as produce prep. This is obviously none of this is long-term storage of the food itself. It's more about the long-term storage of me and my family, right? Giving us as much produce as possible keeps us healthy as long as possible. So anyway, that's more what this is about. But when it comes to the produce prepping, I have begun to not do every single thing I buy when I buy it, just because I have learned just from reading my book. I'll show you the book I use, or I think I'm going to put that in the intro. But what I learned from the book is a lot of these vegetables will store very well, whole, uncut, unwashed, just in their baggie that you buy them in. They'll store for like 9 days. A lot of times, like stuff that might surprise you, it will store really long if you just don't cut it. And so what I tend to do is only cut like maybe a quart at a time, or like 2 bell peppers at a time, or like, you know, 2 or 3 cucumbers at a time. And otherwise I leave them whole in the fridge, and then I can just cut them up again when I need more. But we're going through so much produce now, and basically none of it is going to waste. And it's a really, really good feeling. It feels good, of course, because we're eating all of these things, but it feels good emotionally too that I'm not throwing my produce away. But anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut these into slices and get them into this jar, and that will be our bell pepper prep, so that they're ready for snacking. And then they last longer cut into thicker slices, kind of like with the cucumber, than they would if I diced them right away, so that when I want to use them for salads, I just take the strips and just quickly slice the strips into cubes, rather than trying to store them in their diced form which makes them not last nearly as long as the larger pieces. All right, 2 peppers can kind of get jammed into a quart jar like this, and so you have to sort of push a little and kind of finagle the pieces, but usually 2 bell peppers will fit in a quart jar. And then, like I said, I'm pretty sure this is anywhere from 2 to 3 cucumbers sliced thickly, kind of smallish cucumbers. And this is a 4-cup Tupperware container. And so I wanted to show you though, the lettuce, like even though like you try to press on it, it's coming back. So it's not just floating, but I don't know if you can see how much more volume of lettuce it seems we have now. It just looks beautiful. There's sage. I'm not seeing, oh, see, here's an end that's not amazing. Like it has a little bit of damage on it, but you see it's not wilty at all anymore. It's nicely firmed back up and ready to go. What, are you here because you want to eat some lettuce?
I want to eat raspberries.
Are you serious? This is, see what I mean? Like I cannot keep these things. And I did not, this is not staged, by the way. She did not, I didn't ask her to come over here and do this. Okay, I'll get you raspberries in just a second. But okay, the lettuce is nicely plumped back up, and so I'm gonna go ahead and drain it and dry it and get it into a baggie as well. Here's my beautiful lettuce, and I put a little paper towel in the bag as well, and so this is not quite as much breathing room as I would like for it to have in there, but we're going to have some salad with dinner tonight, and that is going to get emptied a bit to give it a bit more breathing room, so I'm just going to leave it for now rather than getting another bag out. But you can probably guess from what I am doing here that I am about to go ahead and spiralize some zucchini. So I do really love to have spiralized zucchini as a zucchini noodle type thing. It's just yummy. It's yummy for so many different kinds of cuisines. I actually do really love it just with a tomato sauce. It's amazing. It's not very high in calories, but it's just fantastic. So I really love to have it. And so basically what I like to do is I leave the little root intact rather than cutting that off in addition to the end. I just leave that intact, and then that's the piece that gets pierced by the little piercing tongs of the spiralizer. And so you just sort of push it, although sometimes it's not quite enough. So you might have to sometimes finagle it a little bit. And then as it comes out, I stop. Every few turns, I usually count. I'm not counting right now because I'm talking, but it's like I count usually a certain number of turns. I'm like, here, look at my amazing trick that works so well, except it doesn't now that I'm filming, right? And so every few turns, I just come and I break it off. Otherwise, you're going to end up with noodles that are like, I don't know, like 7 feet long. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. They get insanely long. So just sort of go a little at a time, break them off. And then this is how I spiralize my zucchini. And so I will see how much I can fit in here. I usually can fit 2 to 3 spiralized zucchini in here, and once they've been spiralized, they will last about 5 days in the fridge. This was 2 zucchini actually. I don't know where I thought 3 fits in here. Maybe very small zucchini, but 2 zucchini in here, kind of squashed in, and those are ready to go. And I just took that last zucchini and cut it up along with the little pieces that come out that are not spiralized, the little piece that comes out from the spiralizer. I am just taking those and I'm going to put those in a dish, and I'm realizing this might be too small. And then these will be ready to go into soup, or, oh no, this is like perfect. They're going to be ready to go into soup or stir fry or whatever it is I would like to add them to. Zucchini, cabbage, and cauliflower as well are vegetables that I consider kind of relatively neutral in taste. Granted, obviously they do have their own taste, but I mean, as far as if you toss them into almost any soup, anything like chili or anything, eggplant is another one that you can just add vegetables and it doesn't really change the flavor profile of the dish. It just adds a bunch of vegetables to it, at least in my experience. Purple cabbage has a bit more of a distinctive flavor, but overall it's like it doesn't change it that much. And so these are great vegetables to have on hand for basically tossing into anything that you normally make. Toss these in and you just increase the vegetables in your dish, and it's not really that overly noticeable versus something like a pepper or onion or like broccoli or carrot or celery. These all have very distinctive flavors. I also consider greens, for the most part, kale, spinach. Once they get into a dish, they tend to be relatively neutral in their application as far as cooking goes. So you can throw those into almost anything and not really mess up your dish. So it's good to keep in mind to shop for veggies like that. Like especially if you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. How do I eat that or whatever? Just buy it, chop it up and toss it into something that you already eat all the time and cook it up. And that can be a great way to get through some vegetables, especially if you're not really used to eating them. All right, my final tip for everybody is to go ahead and also make sure that you prep at least one dressing if you're not buying it from the store. So this is the barbecue ranch recipe from the Plentifully Lean cookbook by Plentiful Kiki. I can link that down below in case you're interested. It's absolutely delicious. And it's just one of those things where it takes less than 5 minutes. And I know it feels like a lot on top of all of this because this was a lot of work. But if you have something that makes you more likely to actually eat the stuff, like when you go for your salad, you have a delicious dressing also waiting for you in the fridge, or like your veggies or whatever, you want to have something to dip your veggies into. Just find yourself something like that you really enjoy, and also add that to your preps. Again, it's just like less than 5 minutes. Some of these recipes are a lot more simple than you would think, and just make sure you've got something ready to go for you. And then you'll be more likely to actually eat the stuff that you prepared. So anyway, I hope that you really enjoyed that. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Like, subscribe, and if you watched all the way to the end, thank you so much. As always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. See you guys next time. Bye. No shame. No shame whatsoever. There they go. I don't need a quart jar for these. So dumb.